It all started with a very simple idea. Tell the stories of how successful middle market CEOs made it to the corner office. I'm Brant Handley, founder and managing director of Resource Options International, or ROI. We're the USA's premier executive search firm focused exclusively on empowering middle market companies to attract, hire, and retain A players while transforming top executives' careers and lives. ROI's Into the Corner office is dedicated to discovering how middle market CEOs advance their career, and we're making these remarkable and sometimes quite unbelievable stories available to you for the very first time. Listen and learn about the challenges they've overcome, the interesting people they've met along the way, and the lessons learned that steered these executives' unique journey into a middle market corner office of their own. I know you enjoy these CEO stories as much as I've enjoyed recording them, so thank you for listening today. And if you like what you've heard, rate us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm looking forward to you joining me on the next great middle market CEO adventure into the corner office. My guest today is Mirko Marich, founder, CEO, and president of StaffSource and Contract Services Group. Mirko has a solid track record in business and is devoted to his family and friends and committed to his community. His history is a classic American success story. He was born the son of a Yugoslavian immigrant who came to America with little more than the shirt on his back. And Mirko was taught to work hard, be a good family man and friend, and do right by all. Prior to establishing the companies he currently leads, Mirko successfully led the sales efforts for Labor World in their largest Chicago market. During his time there, he assisted in reorganizing 2 distressed offices and expanding sales in his territories through growing existing business relationships and generating new customers, turning them into the most profitable offices in North America. Mirko Marich, welcome into the corner office.
Good afternoon, Brant. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you here. And, we spoke a few weeks ago, and I was just sharing with you, in fact, of your Yugoslavian origin. I had a brief stint as an intern in the old Slovenia, or rather the new Slovenia, which is part of the old Yugoslavia. And we'll want to get in and dig into a little bit to your Yugoslavian roots. But we always kind of like to start in the beginning. And I know you are the son of immigrants. So tell us a little bit about your early family life. And let's start with, was your dad and mom both immigrating from Yugoslavia, or did your dad come over and meet his American bride?
Well, my father was an immigrant from Yugoslavia, former Yugoslavia, and met my mother here in Germany, who's a German immigrant.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool.
I know just enough to be dangerous, and a little bit of German and a little bit of Serbian.
What part of the country did he immigrate into?
So he came here, and we're here located still to this day into Northwest Indiana. Came here, joined the military in the U.S. as well. He fought in World War II.
So he was a young man when he came over.
He was, yeah. And started working in the steel mills out here, and raised our family, and we haven't left the roots here.
Awesome. And what brought him originally to Indiana? Were there other Yugoslav relatives that were in the country or in that part of the country before he came?
There sure are. It's a big melting pot here in Northwest Indiana, and there's a big contingency of our Serbian people here.
Great. Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Brothers and sisters?
2 sisters. So
2 sisters.
I'm the youngest.
You're the youngest. Okay.
And so 2 sisters, 1 boy, and of Serbian descent. So I was kind of like, I guess you could say I had a little more privileges than my sister.
The man of the house. Yeah. And you said your dad worked in the steel mills. Was he doing that when you were born? And was that his career?
It was. He retired from the same factory that he started working at.
Yeah. Awesome. And what about mom? Did she work in the home, or did she have outside employment?
Both very involved in the church community here, but she worked as a waitress, and she worked as in quality control, which kind of we'll segue into a little later, but and retired from that industry. So
awesome. And you said you've stayed in the same Indiana town for your life. Did you meet your bride locally there?
I did. She was in high school, and I was my first year of college, and we've been together ever since.
And is she of Yugoslavian background as well?
She does not. She claims her fame to being a pilgrim. So
Okay. Excellent, excellent. Well, again, back to your early years. What were some of the things that you remember from mom and dad? Obviously, it sounds like dad worked hard. Steel mill work has got to be very strenuous. But do you remember some of those early lessons that mom and dad gave you when you're growing up?
Sure, yeah. Not only did my father work in the steel mills and pick up every overtime hour he could,
I bet.
he also had a coffee shop. My mom also worked
Yeah.
in the coffee shop, so he
Okay.
was kind of entrepreneurial trait in and of his own right as
Sure.
well. And yeah, just to kind of always enforced, working hard
Yeah.
and providing. So
Good Midwestern ethics, right?
for sure.
And what about other influencers? Did you have grandparents around on either side of the family?
I did.
Yeah.
My father brought his mother over,
Oh,
and so she was somebody that he had to take care of. I had to take care of as well of my sisters, and kind of watched over her as she
yeah.
was in poor health. But my mother's father was here as well, and again, all kind a very close knit community
Yeah.
and strong family life.
Love that. Any insights from the grandparents that you recall, or maybe other influencers? People that perhaps your coaches or your teachers, or perhaps Sunday school teachers that might have taught you things, or that you remember from a kid that helped kind of set you on your path.
Well, I would say so. I'm a avid soccer fan.
Ah,
Our family is, and my boys. I have three boys, and they all play. I still play to this day, and
awesome.
my younger days of growing up, that was a big community of ours as well.
Can imagine.
Um, any time off my father had, he would take us to tournaments and set up tournaments, soccer tournaments, and we'd play across the country and
Yeah.
meet a lot of people. And so not only my father, but just other coaches we had, high school coaches
Right.
and things of that nature were always
Learn to play the
instrumental.
game fairly. Learn about competition. Right. Being a good sport. Those types of things.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and be competitive and win.
And be competitive. Yeah. That's a good thing to have. What about school? You're a good student?
No.
That was a quick answer. Your staff and family are going to listen to this, right, Mirko?
Sure. I'll
Let's see.
try to
You
tweak it the
excelled in
best
the
way
things
I
you liked.
can.
Is that a fair question?
I absolutely 100%. I went to in high school. I got through. I went to a trade school in my senior year, and uh, I was doing drafting.
Yeah.
I loved architecture, construction, and ultimately went on to school at Purdue Lafayette to study construction and the building trades.
Right. Right.
Um, I considered going to the military,
You did. Yeah.
and I certainly wasn't too fond of having my parents pay for school when I kind of knew I wasn't going to do all that great
Right.
because I
Right.
didn't do all
Right.
that great in high school. Um, but my son, or my being the son of a disabled veteran,
Mm,
received some grant money, and I said, "Well, I'll give it a shot." So
yeah.
I stuck it out for 4 years and didn't get my bachelor's, and decided at that point that I probably need to do something different because the
Right.
money was running out.
Right. Yeah.
So that's that's basically started my career is deciding to leave college and being fearful of my life when I came back home to tell my father that I wasn't finishing college, but
Yeah.
so went off to start working.
Well, thank you for your service and appreciated that. You talked about soccer, obviously being an activity in school. Were there other things that you had an interest in? Music, debate. Did you have entrepreneurial things that you did as a kid?
Even probably in middle school, um, I always tried to make an extra couple bucks somewhere. So, we moved from East Chicago, which is from a little two-bedroom home into Munster, and I said these people probably buy stuff. And I found in the back of a magazine a little article that you could sell seeds for gardens and for vegetables or flowers,
Right.
and went door to door. Knocking on doors. We moved to a little more affluent area, and people were buying them. Little kid
Yeah.
down the block, and so that sort of stuff. And um,
You
again,
got your entrepreneurial appetite, I bet.
I did. Yeah.
I love that. And then, any other kind of jobs? Did you work in the coffee shop? Did your dad invite you to the steel mill during the summers and stuff, or were there other jobs that you had as you were growing up before you went to college?
As I was in high school, I also worked at a warehouse, learned how to drive a forklift, unload trucks, and things of that nature. But really, um, real career really started right after leaving college.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and
And what was that first job you had out of college?
well, the first thing I tried to do was go straight to the labor union and sign up, which I did, and was assured through some connections of my father and friends uh, that there's plenty of work and just wait by the phone and you're going to get a call and you're going to go on jobs. And after about a week or 2 weeks of not getting calls and me calling every day, I said, I got to get out of this house and do something.
All right.
And I reached out to a construction company that I had worked for during the summers in high school.
Yeah.
And I said, do you have any work? He said, we really don't have that much work. I said, look, I just got to get dirty. I got to come home sweaty. And so you don't have to pay me.
Yeah, I'll just volunteer.
I'll just dig some ditches. So otherwise, my old man's going to kill me.
I love it. And what did they say? Of course, free labor. Sure, we'll take it.
He said, I could use some help in my hardware store. So, if you want to go stock some shelves, perfect, I'll do it. I ended up running that little hardware store.
Nice.
For a few years, and then.
And he started paying you, I'm sure, after that.
He did. He paid me out of the gate. But, I was willing to do anything. And then stayed with him for about 8 years.
8 years. Wow. Cool.
Went into his construction division and became a project manager running light commercial, primarily residential insurance restoration work. And we had a good crew of guys there, and business grew exponentially, and was great learning experience. So if there's somebody that I could say who is a mentor, the owner of that company, unquestionably was.
Yeah. What were some of the lessons that he taught you back then?
He would go on calls with me for estimates and kind of critique how I spoke to people. Your tone has a lot to do with it, and how you communicate, your body language, just things like that. Unfortunately, I think in this day and age, we don't see a lot of that. The people are in front of their computers. We're on Zoom calls and everything else, and
the pandemic has limited so much personal contact, right?
Absolutely, right.
But those are good lessons, showing up on time, being dressed right, being appropriate, right? Listening more than talking, all those things are key. Do you remember the first time you started managing people, Mirko?
I do, and I was a young guy, and some of these men were twice my age, and sometimes you have to reprimand
this is the construction business,
right, in the construction business. Very difficult and challenging, but those are all building blocks, no doubt.
Sure. How did you overcome some of those age differences? Because I talk to a lot of people. That's kind of typically how most people start, whether they've gone to college or not. They get into jobs where they're managing folks that are a lot older than them, more skilled, and it can be sometimes filled with resentment. There can be obviously some saboteurs that are involved at all. And did you encounter any of those problems? And if so, how did you kind of overcome that?
I think I gained the workforce's respect by never asking anything of them to do that I wasn't willing to do myself, and then would admittedly, I'll do this, but I'm not a skilled tradesman like you, but I'll sweep, I'll help you, I'll do whatever, and was never reluctant to throw on a tool belt and jump in and do anything I could, for sure.
Yeah, and then got the respect. I love it. Well, you got into the staffing industry, and we want to talk a little bit about that because we share that love. How did that come about? What was kind of your first job before you kind of founded the great companies that you now run?
So it kind of all ties together. So when I decided that I was going to make a move from the construction company, I went out with one of my colleagues who was also a project manager, did the same job I did, also twice my age, but I said, I was the young hustler with this company, and
right.
I was the one that had, the biggest jobs and everything else. I don't know how you guys are going to really survive without me, and I hate to say. So a little bit of arrogance, right?
Yeah,
Still a young
yeah,
guy,
right.
and he just laughed at me and he said, tell me something. Who had the best carpenters on their jobs? I said, I did. Who had the best plumbers? I did. Who had the best electricians? I did. He said, now, do you think that you did all that, or did you have the
Mm,
best people with you?
mm,
And is that may be why. He said, when you have a great workforce and
so
when you can
true.
find great people, that's what makes somebody successful is
That's
is
right.
having those people around you. So
Yeah, yeah,
that stuck with me to this day. To
yeah.
this day, it sticks with me. And coincidentally, I came home. I surprised my wife, who, by profession and her education, she's a pharmacist.
Okay.
So she was working as a pharmacist. So she was making a good living. I was making a very good living at the time as well. But I came home. We were newly married, and I said, "Honey, I quit my job today."
No
So
warning.
yeah, no
Just came
warning
home
or
and
anything.
let her
Just came
know.
home. She said, "You don't have a college education. What the heck are you gonna do?"
Oh my gosh.
So she has a girlfriend that came over, and she's complaining to her how dumb I am, and her, her her girlfriend says, "You know what? I'm working for this staffing company, and I know they're looking for salespeople,
Ah,
and why don't you apply?" I said, "What, a Kelly Girls?" I didn't even really know what
what
staffing
staffing
company
was.
was.
Yeah, right,
I'm
right.
like,
And
I
back
just knew
then,
the
Kelly
Kelly,
was probably the only one that was out there. Yeah,
the girls in green skirts. Is
right.
that what we're talking about? She said, kind of, but not really. So she set me up an interview. I met with the folks there, and
Was this a local staffing firm? Was it a national or an international
it
organization?
was a privately owned
Private,
national company,
national.
and
Okay.
it was out of Chicago, and it was about a 45, 50-minute drive for me every day. And
Yeah.
they were kind of like a day labor staffing
Okay.
company.
Got it.
I shouldn't say kind of. They,
Hourly,
they were,
hourly laborers. Yeah.
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 And I didn't like that model, but it was what it was. It was a job. I was getting paid, so I did the best I could. And um, working out in the Chicago market was outside of Northwest Indiana, even though we're logistically as close as we are, was a bit of a challenge. A little different type of workforce, a little, what have you, was different, and I wasn't all that excited about the job.
Right.
And then I was sitting next to one of my sales desk, and there was guys that sell franchises sitting next to me, and I overheard them saying, this um, we have an office for sale in Northwest Indiana.
Mm.
As soon as he got off the phone, I said, "What are you talking about? You have an office for sale?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "That's in my backyard. That's where I spent my life, and working with companies out there
Yeah.
and everything else." So I go to the um, president, and I said, "I'm doing okay for you here." I said, "Buy back that franchise. Take that franchise back. You own it, but you let me run it, and let
Mm.
me do it my way. And you could take my salary away, increase my commission, and if we
Yeah.
make money, I make a little more money, and you start
Everyone's
making money,
happy.
and yeah,
Yeah.
everybody wins." They did it,
He
and
agreed. Awesome.
he agreed, and we did fantastic. We
Focusing on the same market, right? You were doing
yeah,
the hourly workers. Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
we just kind of refocused in the way some of the things we were doing is
Yeah.
not focusing so much on a day labor, but more long term temp to perm work, and like I said, knowing people in my community was
Yeah.
a huge advantage.
Oh, I can imagine. Right.
And
Right.
then that
That makes sense.
company went public, and
Oh.
when it went public, they came in. They said, in the whole country, um, you you have the best margins and what
Huh.
have you. Not so it's not sales, in volume, but I said, well, we do a little more industrial, so it warrants higher pay rates, and we negotiate higher pay rates for our people and things like that. He said, that's all fine and dandy, but bottom line is your pay structure doesn't fit within our model, and
Huh.
I don't know why you have it that way. I said, well, that's because what I negotiated when we took this office over. And he said, well, that's going to change, so you need to change your lifestyle. And I said, okay, well then I give my 2 weeks notice.
Yeah,
And
right. That was an easy
home,
discussion.
So, yeah, I came home to my wife again, and I said, well, I quit my job today.
There seems to be a history here, a recurring theme. Oh, goodness.
So then in 98, so I had a non-compete. I had to stay away from the industry, but a year later I opened up Staff Source.
Yeah.
And really kind of all the ideas I had in my mind of what a staffing company should look like is what we rolled out and have
rolling ever since. And what year was that, Mirko?
And late 97, 98.
97, so been over almost 25 years. Awesome. Yeah. And what do you think really differentiates your approach? Not to give away trade secrets, but, tell us a little bit about how, you really operate that staffing firm differently today than you did when you were, under someone else's auspices, so to speak.
Well, we kind of have two arms. So Staff Source started, we had no applicants, we had no clients, and we just went out and hit the streets and bootstrapped and tried to get people to come in and apply with us, and then go talk to companies. And remarkably, we kind of landed on our feet out of the gate, and I still had some relationships from years past. So that all went well, but then, so we're talking 1998, and web presence wasn't the big thing. It was Yellow Pages.
Sure, still ads. Yeah, right.
I took out the biggest page in the staffing and employment section in the Yellow Pages. I got a call from one of the biggest employers in our area.
Wow.
And I said, hey, I'll be right there. I'm jumping in my car now. I'll see you in a minute. And I said, if you don't mind me asking, how did you hear about us? He said, I opened up the phone book and you had the biggest ad.
There you go. It proves it works.
Right. Yeah. But that company, that company explained to me that they had multiple different agencies that were working in there. They had engineering firms. And I said, it doesn't all make sense to me. And it's an automotive supplier.
Right.
I said, doesn't all make sense to me. You have guys that, are high-level engineers, and then you have day labor guys. They're doing the same work, different parts of the plant, on different components. And I said, let me give this some thought, and I'll come back to you. And I did some more research, and I interviewed people at that company, and came to find out there's just a big disconnect with the communication and what was happening within their plant. I said, if I design some sort of like spreadsheet and I'm able to give you, every 4 hours, tell you what's happening in your plant, this will minimize or mitigate the need for you to have parts in Mexico thrown on a plane and fly them out because you ran out and didn't know you were running out.
Right.
And instead of having engineers and day labor guys, let me give you some folks that are responsible, pay a decent wage, and we'll manage that whole process. So that was the birth of our other division called Contract Services Group.
Okay.
And I thought I invented that industry, but came to find out that there's plenty of competition in the industry.
That's okay. It's a very locally based type of business.
So it's that component, the Contract Services Group. We have our Staff Source handle doing all of our recruiting, all of our onboarding and hiring, and then doing orientations and training programs before they come out into the field with us.
Okay. Got
so
it.
We're able to offer services. So in that kind of transcended into offering other types of services, such as just cross docking. So we have a warehouse facility where we cross dock material. We'll do picking, pick and pack, sorting of parts, things of that nature.
Right.
And so for a company that's looking for, that has some, challenges or doesn't particularly like a certain component of their business and wants to concentrate on other things, we're a source to be able to outsource to, or if you're just short manpower, we have that ability, which is our core business of Staff Source.
Awesome. And do the people cross over between the two organizations, or is it a set, staffing group in one and employment group in one as well as the other?
They really do cross over, and the reason is
a lot of synergy.
There's a lot of synergies, but also the work that Contract Services Group does is often cyclical.
Right.
So we'll be working at an OEM facility, and I keep talking about Northwest Indiana. We also have operations that actually we grew into just because of relationships we grew here in the automotive out in Detroit and in Warren, Michigan, where we have warehouses. But if a company in Mexico sends parts into one of their suppliers and they know that there's an issue with it and they need us to rework it to bring them into the proper specification so that their customer can use those parts, it may be one shipment or it may be 3 shipments, but it's short term in nature, right? So that assignment may be 3 months. If we don't have something to put those folks on, another position to put those folks in within our Contract Services Group division, we immediately contact the staff source office, say, John Doe's going to be assignment's going to be ending on Friday. Please try to find him some additional work in another position. And which is another advantage to the companies that we work with, is that we'll manage the folks first. We'll see their work ethic. We'll know that they're somebody that we want to make a recommendation or a referral to another company.
Yeah, awesome. How many employees in total, Mirko?
It varies greatly. We can go from having 500 to 900 on any given day.
Yeah, awesome, cool. And so all the contract workers are 1099 through you, and then or W-2 through you and 1099 to the company, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we handle all all the onboarding and
taxes,
they get taxes and things of that nature.
Yeah, awesome, cool business, great. Well, congratulations for your success, and you've been doing it over 20 years from now, so you're going to be around a while. Tell us a little bit about how you kind of manage, your own folks, and talk a little bit about leadership. How has your leadership perhaps evolved, over that arc of the last 20 years being an entrepreneur and setting this company up?
I go back to what my colleague from my construction days brought up, and that was surrounding yourself with great people. And when you get good people, then let them do what they do, provide the tools that they need. I am very fortunate to have a great management team around me, and allowing them to make decisions and things like that, even though times that you may disagree with what that decision is, allow people to go their own path and learn from it and grow. That's all.
Grow accordingly. You talked about the importance of getting good people, and it's of course what I tell my clients all the time. Working in executive recruiting, but for your organization, what do you look for? When you're making bets on those people that you invest in and hire, how do you know they're good?
You could look at resumes and try to check every box on what the job opening is. More so than anything, and this is what I try to teach and train our recruiters and folks, is really attitude. You could teach a lot of skill sets, but attitude is something that's very difficult to teach.
Right. Oh, very proud. And how do you get at that? How do you determine if they've got the right attitude?
I think in as opposed to having script interviews, is really trying to have conversation with people, and when people are comfortable, they're going to kind of let you know all about themselves, and you're going to know whether it's a cultural fit for your organization, for another's organization, or what have you.
Yeah. How do you open them up? What are the kind of questions you ask to get people talking about that and get into conversation mode?
Well, that's a good question, because I haven't interviewed anybody in quite a while.
I'm testing you. I'm triple clicking, Mirko.
and it's really, I think it's really just, tell me a little bit about yourself, and
open-ended questions.
For sure.
And
get
follow
them talking.
Yeah.
Well, you know how to do it better.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. I'm always learning. Hey, that's why I did this podcast, right? I think I told you the story that, someone came to me and said, you got to do a podcast. I said, podcast, smodcast, what would I talk about? He says, well, what questions do you get asked? And, you get this asked all the time, I'm sure, by your clients. I need to find good people. Find me some good people. I've had high turnover, or, this guy said he was that and he turned out to be this and they didn't work out. And, I tell them it's about finding the right fit, right? And really understanding who they are. And, they may be great for an organization. They may not be great for yours. So you've got to tailor your interviews around determining whether or not they're going to be, aligned with your working style, right? And your working culture. Tell us a little bit about the culture at your organizations. How would you describe it?
Well, I really try to enforce the fact that our applicants and people that come to us, they're the ones that really write our checks for us. So when they walk through our door, don't physically embrace them, but embrace them. Yeah. And teach treat them with respect. That you treat people the way you want to be treated. Finding a job is a challenging thing. Yeah. It's stressful, and you have to empathize with that. And I think in years past it was a little different, where as an agency we could say, well, we're going to require you to prove yourself. We're going to require this. It's a tough labor market out there right now. Yeah. And there's more jobs than there are people. There's more jobs than there are people that want to work.
Very tight.
And
buyer's market. Yeah.
At 100%. So, really making things as easy as possible for somebody, making them feel comfortable, and really, I've told the story to my staff a number of times. I like to think of ourselves as, what is that? What's a movie called? Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, right.
Where he's jumping up and down and screaming. Yeah. And then he's jumping up and screaming. And then, when we are able to find somebody, a great job, a great new career and stuff, that's what you should feel like. And if you, and if you feel like that you can do that every day you come to work and you have that opportunity to feel like that, it's a pretty cool thing.
That's super cool. And you said you got a great management team. Succession planning, got any kids in the business, or, how do you kind of map out the future?
So that's a tough one. My wife and I have been discussing that quite a bit. So we had partners when we started the business back in '98. One of them, actually both of them, brothers, were diagnosed with melanoma. One of them with terminal, but wonderfully full recovery for both of them. But that changed their perspective on life.
Of course, as it would.
And they're younger than my wife and I. And but the focus changed a little bit. So we decided best thing is to buy them out. We bought them out back in 2016. 2015, I think it was. Again, they're both doing fantastic, so that's good stuff. But I guess to answer your question, coincidentally, my former boss from the construction days merged with another company. It was also a friend of mine here, local business. Have a great construction company together. And they said, we need to find an estimator, project manager, same job you used to do. I said, well, good luck. No one's going to work 7 days a week, those kind of hours. And my son was just graduating engineering school and had some job offers already, had a great internship that he did that he really liked, but the jobs were in Chicago, and they pretty much were going to be sitting behind a desk at a computer doing takeoffs and things like that. And he's a little more outgoing guy. And I said, you know what? And first I recommended to my friends at the construction company. I said, reach out to this guy, call this guy, call it. So we already know all those guys, and we called all of them, and it's not going to work out. I said, you guys make a decision here. Just have a conversation with my son. So they were very reluctant, but then after speaking with them, my son got excited about it. They got excited. So he's been working for them now for the past year and a half or so. And they said, well,
likes the industry.
He loves it, and he says, well, why don't you want me to work for you? And he my oldest, actually all my boys have worked for us. I put them in the warehouses, and two of them know how to drive forklifts, and I have them load and unload trucks and everything else. But he said, why don't you want me to work for you? I said, I would like you to, but I don't know that this is a career for you. I've
Go
got
try
great
it out
management.
somewhere else.
I've got great management in place now. You're not going to take any of their jobs, and I'm not going to create a job for you. And I said, I think you'll really enjoy this. And he went on to do that. And again, they said, well, why wouldn't you hire him? I said, well, I would hire him, and he's ran projects for me and things like that. But I think he's probably got a better opportunity with you guys. So, my second youngest is somebody that I think may have interest, but really depends on what opportunities are here at the time. And my youngest is a little brainiac, and I think he's going to go on to compete against Elon and anybody else. So I don't think he's going to take over.
I love it. Well, you're still very young, so you're not ready to retire yet. I don't think so.
To be determined.
Well, Mirko, you've been very, very generous with your time, and we're just about out of it. But we always have one last question to ask, and that's kind of what career and life advice would you give someone that maybe has their eyes on their own corner office, or more importantly, maybe have that entrepreneurial, tingling, early on in their career like you did. But what would you say to that person in terms of the kind of things that they should think about to, be as successful as you have?
I think it's things that we already talked about for the most part. It's make sure you surround yourself with great people. Doing hiring for people's attitude, and teach and train to the best of your ability, but also be open to learning everything you can from them as well. And more than anything is having integrity in business and being honest, being open with your employees, with your customers, and I think people see that in someone, and are willing to do business with you or stick around with you, and it's big revolving door and all these companies that I go to and visit with, and I'm happy to say we've got quite a few people here that have been with us a long time, and I like to think that it's because they're treated right. They're respected, and everyone respects each other.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Mirko Marich, President, CEO, and founder of both Contract Services Group and Staff Source, thank you so much for sharing your journey into the corner office.
Thanks, Brant.
Thank you for listening to Into the Corner Office with Brant Hanley. We hope you enjoyed hearing our guest CEO story as much as we did. If you want to hear more CEOs reveal their journey into the corner office, please subscribe via iTunes and tell your friends and colleagues. For more information about Brant, Resource Options International, and the mighty middle market, visit www.goforroi.com. We look forward to having you join us for our next episode.